Hello, welcome back if you're still with us. The second episode of Stories About Life. And I think this is a bit of a continuation of my story from the first episode. And look who we have with us today. It's Lucy. Those who are just audio listening, Lucy, my cat, is with us today. She's a black cat that we adopted and is sort of part of that transition I did from the tax consultancy days that I talked about in the first episode to transitioning toward a career as a counselor. As I mentioned, I would like to think of career as just part of the work area of your life. And so yes, while I do work as a counselor, I don't I believe we should see each other as multifaceted human beings with lots of interests, a lot of different life experiences, and we're not perfect. So this podcast is just to share some stories or content that you might relate to in your own life and feel connected to another human being. I won't always be sharing my stories, but I figure it'd be a good way to start with. And maybe in the future I'll share some of my reflections on fictional stories or even biographies or autobiographies that I find interesting. Yep. And so today's episode, I'm going to talk about how I transitioned from becoming a counselor, from becoming a tax consultant to becoming a counselor. While I was still working as a tax consultant, and I think I mentioned in the past episode where I went through a bit of a burnout, and so that was about when I started to think about what else could I be doing. Should I be looking for another job in a similar field, or should I be doing something else? And it took my father passing away to make me realize like there was this really strong feeling within me, like, for lack of a better word, it felt like a calling to try and do something that is toward the helping profession that I've always kind of geared toward, because I read the book My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult, and somehow I was very drawn to the character, although a little bit of a side character. I was drawn to the character that was a lawyer and also a trained person to be able to be with the child and be their social and emotional support. And I was like, hey, I want to be that. And that's why I studied law, actually, because that time the career in the helping profession or psychology was not very familiar to me, and I didn't want to try that. But so if we continue on from the last episode, when I was going through burnout and then my father passed away, then there was this calling of like, hey, you gotta do something that's actually meaningful to you. Like now, you need a change. And I was a little lost. I was like, but I'm not really good at anything. And I hear this a lot from people around me, or even like my clients who are not so happy in their job. Like, they're like, but I'm not good at anything else, and I don't dare try anything else if I'm not good at it. And I totally empathize with that. I was like that. I am like that still. But I had a very supportive, and still do. I have a very supportive boyfriend at that time, now my husband. And so I asked him, hey, if you knew me just as a person, like you don't know what my work experience is, what my skill sets are, what would you guess that work I would be doing? And he said, marriage counselor. In that time, I was like, counselor. I never really thought about it, the field of counseling. I always thought you have to go into psychology and like work at the hospital. Because when I was younger, I experienced a lot of my relatives or close people passing away or being in the hospitals. So I have quite a not a very pleasant experience of hospitals. So when I thought psychology means you have to work in a hospital, I was like, no. But when David, my husband now, mentioned, hey, maybe I would feel like just knowing you as a person, you would be a marriage counselor, like work as marriage counselor. I was like, oh, okay. So I was very lucky. He worked at the university at that time, and he had a colleague who was a lecturer in counseling. So I said, hey, can I set up a meeting to, talk to her? And he was like, yeah, sure. He helped me to get in contact with her and arrange a time to talk with her. And so we talked, and that was my first experience with career counseling, which is the assessment I talked to you about in the first episode as well, the Holland's career choice, actually theory, and the test is what we call the RISEC test, and the code you get is the RISEC code. So RIASEC, it's an acronym for the 6 personalities, career personalities they have in the test. So she happened to be doing that research, and so she said, hey, I have the test there, you want to do it? Because I'm doing it for my research. And so I did, and that's when she told me, my results show that my number one, I wouldn't say like it's a personality, it's more like your inclination. So I'm more inclined to the artistic. And the way I see it, the career test or this theory is that it's not that you're not good or you are very good at the things that are your top personalities. It's just that that's your inclination. So for example, if have you ever had a kid in your class that's really good at math and they just get it, like when the teacher's up there and they talk about some math principle, they just get it and they can pursue it? Or even someone in art class, they just get it and even if they don't get it technically, like the technical aspect of it, they somehow they have this interest to continue to practice it. So in spite of the failures, they still have this inner interest, like drive or passion, you might call it. But I wouldn't want to say passion. It's more like you're just drawn to it, you're magnetized to it. So yeah, mine is more toward the artistic. And whatever job I was doing, and back then it was too much on the compliance conservative side, which is the opposite of artistic. And also my second top career personality or inclination was social, which means the helping people kind of work, teachers, nurses, doctors, somewhat, counselor. But she was very helpful and showed me that my results show my artistic inclination is still way higher than my social, although social was second highest. Meaning that if I get into counseling and that's all I do, I'll still feel very burnt out because it doesn't tap into my top preference, which is the artistic. But to me, there was something creative, a bit more creative in counseling than in tax, which is what I was doing. Although there was some creative aspects in tax as well, because we have to come up with solutions on how to optimize tax. And I love especially the structuring stuff and understanding the different types of businesses our clients did when I was in tax. So it was really fun for that part, which is why I couldn't like really name a bad thing or something, a difficult thing that caused the burnout at my first job. In terms of the actual work, it was fine. It was fun. It was like kind of interesting, like probably artistic in a way, because now I see artistic as being creative with solutions, or even like being creative in how I source the solutions. So I think I mentioned this in the first episode as well, like maybe people will be like, yeah, we understand, like who wouldn't burn out or get bored or dislike work in the accounting firm. I was like, actually not so true. Like when I got healthier, I was like, actually it works kind of fun. There were just many other aspects of my mindset and how I approached my boundaries and things like that, and my health as well, that created the burnout. And of course, this misalignment of career personality. So although I could be creative in that line of work, the artistic was still too strong, and I needed my freedom to indulge in the artistic. Even though up to now, I would say I haven't committed that much time to the artistic line of things. In fact, I find this podcast is a way of me doing something artistic or creative. But now I do have a group of friends that are in the artistic lines, and they are so creative and artistic. And I think just being around that energy has been helpful for me. Again, I'm going off tangent, but yes. So it started with that career test, making me explore. And I think like I still wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue a master's in counseling. And she also said, like, if you apply for the master's program, likely you won't get into it because my background in tax, like my study was in commerce, accounting, and law. And there was nothing helping profession about it. So she recommended that maybe I try and volunteer for something or get involved with something at work that involves working with people, like helping profession type of thing. So I said, at work there isn't much, although I am part of the people committee where I speak up for the team's needs and whatnot, but otherwise not much. But I was still involved, like at work we were doing some dances for the annual dinner. I volunteered. I don't know if it's volunteering, but I volunteered to be MC for the company annual dinner as well. I loved like doing announcements for our sports sports event, period. In case you all didn't know, actually accounting firms, they have an annual inter-accounting firm games where they all play sports against each other. It's to encourage bonding between the different accounting firms. Not sure how I ended up part of that committee, but I just like doing other stuff outside of the more conservative compliance style of work, I guess. I've always been very involved and capable with things anyway. So I was involved with those things, but she said that's not quite like what they would look for if I were to apply for the master's program. So I said, hey, if you know any NGO that's looking for volunteers, then just let me know. So after that session, that meeting with her, I think I went on to explore other things as well. I think in the first episode I mentioned I even explored yoga. So I did sign up for the yoga certification program. So which I did not complete, guys. I wasted my money because it's got too many things going on. I mean, talk about overachiever, right? I just talked to a lot of people. I even talked to someone in the firm that was in psychology. I asked friends who did psychology programs, like if they know anyone. And I really got into mindfulness. Sorry about that. I really got into mindfulness, reading Eckhart Tolle, because I was in yoga, and exploring all sorts of things and talking to people. So up to today, that's what I encourage people to do when they're not sure about if the career they are in or the job they are in is where they want to be, or they feel stuck, or just start to explore and talk to people, because it doesn't mean you have to totally quit and start anew and stick with that new thing. So try to find areas or like things where you can just join one meeting, see what it's about, see how you feel about it, and you have the option to say no. So far, I don't think, besides the yoga certification program, because I had to pay the fees, and then it was very hard to say I quit, but I quit. So I would say there's almost nothing I can think about that you can try or explore that you can't eventually say no, it's not a fit. Even if it is a new job, you can just make sure there's an exit plan, so I did all that, talk to people, so one day the lecturer actually called me. She texted me and said, hey, one of my students runs an NGO and they're looking for volunteers. Here's her contact. Please go contact her. I think it's fine to give a shout out to Agape Vision. So the student in question was Avis. She was a student under lecturer, and so I contacted Avis. And there was a misunderstanding because they all thought I was the lecturer's niece or something. And according to their NGO constitution and rules, they can't take in a new member unless they have an existing relationship with any of the existing members, which I didn't. So they thought I was Avis's lecturer's niece, and they felt they couldn't really say no, as maybe it will impact Avis's studies, although really shouldn't. But yeah, so very luckily they let me join the volunteers training, and that's where I met the founder, the other co-founder of Agape Vision, which is Jillian. And so I think it was 4 years or so I was part of the NGO. We work with at-risk teenagers, and we run leadership programs. So essentially leadership training for the youths. And I was really awkward at first. I think Jillian and Avis will attest to that. I'm generally a quiet person when I first come into a new environment, and I'll just observe a lot. And I'm not a very fun person, so when I'm left to the kids without any instructions as to what to do, then I would just be quiet. Yeah. So if anyone who's uncomfortable with silence, I am the opposite. I can sit in silence with you if you ever need. So I guess maybe it was training, or maybe a natural inclination for me when I transitioned to become a counselor. Feel free to sit in silence with me, guys. Yeah, so, but from that I learned a lot about so many different lives and struggles, and in fact acts of horrors that humans can do to each other, and that in a way opened up my eyes, but also opened up my heart. Like, I think I was always very afraid of things not going perfectly, perhaps fear of failure. But then being around that group and seeing how, life can treat you really badly. Yet there are other groups of people who are supportive, who want to be there for you, want to help you live a happier, healthier life. And in fact, they themselves showed such great resilience as well, which really inspired me. The realities of it was like, it's really very awkward for me to be running programs, but the stories and the connections I made there were, I think, part of helping me grow as a human, which I think answers Julian's question. She was the one who asked me to share how did I grow to be this person now after everything I went through. And hey, shout out to you guys at Agape Vision, a whole bunch of you guys, not just the youths but also the volunteers who just showed up as who you are, and just me seeing all the different people, and that there are people who want to show up and contribute to this life and not just play it safe. I think that was a big message for me. Maybe at that time I didn't realize why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep showing up, until I don't want to. Which eventually I had to stop. I think having, like I said in the past episode, not addressing my physical health when I was really burnt out and trying to do all these things as meaningful as they are to me, made it hard to be sustainable and keep going in that sense. And I realized I just need to focus on one thing at a time. So to the volunteering, then I could put it in my application for the Masters of Counseling, because also Avis was already in the Masters of Counseling. So I was like, okay, great. It's a legit thing. So I signed up and I started, and I feel like I felt really at home with the classes. Also, I actually wanted to, because I was already working, right? So it was really awkward to it was really hard to decide, hey, I think I need to study more. Although I mentioned again last time that I had to work and study for professional papers before this as a tax consultant. So it was really hard to be like, okay, I guess I have to study more if I want to change my job or just do something different or try something different, right? It was very difficult to choose that. I was hoping I could just work in an NGO and learn from there, but I wasn't sure at the start, so studies it was. So anyway, I got into the program, and I was still working, by the way, in that firm where I have to work overtime. So instead of waking up at 5, I wake up at 4 a.m. to do my assignments, get ready for work and go to work, brave through the traffic 1.5 hours, getting there 1.5 hours, getting home no matter how late I stay. So I was doing all that, which wasn't the burnout. Like I said, looking back, I wish I dealt with my physical health first. I'm paying for it now. Maybe I can talk about it briefly here. But so although it was additional work in a sense, like going for a master's class, pursuing masters, and working full time where I have to work overtime, it felt like a stress I was willing to go through. I felt, it was so fun to be in the classes, learning something that I want to learn. I even attended workshops outside of class because I wanted to learn more. And some of the people I met outside of the university also invited me for workshops, or some of their lecturers were really kind to let certain classes be free for outside students to come in and sit in. Excuse me. So I did all that. And internship, that's what was one of the questions. During my internship, knowing that I come from so most of my classmates, they kind of come from relatively related fields, or they're very clear about where they want to go and where they want to intern. I was still very burnt out, so I wasn't ready. Like I said, I don't want to work in a hospital. So I had a classmate who used to be in corporate as well, and she was like, I'm going to intern in a hospital. I was like, good for you. I didn't want to do that, and I knew if I don't go for that kind of setting, where it's like a proper center or hospital, I might not get my hours. So what I did was I applied to many different places that are not hospitals. I did apply to a private center, but because they didn't have someone to can supervise me in the area of therapy I was interested in, so I got rejected, which is kind of hard to take. Yeah, and yeah, I got rejected a couple of times, especially for centers. I don't know, something wrong with me, or it just wasn't the right fit. Like, I just have a different approach or style, I guess, and they didn't have the appropriate person to supervise me. Yeah, I ended up going 3 places. I was just like, just be smart about it. I talked to anyone I knew outside if they could supervise me as an additional support to sign off my hours as well. So 3, about somewhat like 3 internship spaces. One was for more like running programs, so I could continue Agape Vision with that. And then there was an online one that was challenging because I tried to do what clinical psychologists are trained in, which is the assessments. I felt dumb. I cried like a lot for that internship because I wasn't trained in that way, and I took hours trying to get through the assessments. Like a lot of them had to take more, I'm ashamed to say, but like more than 4 hours or more than 2 hours, because I didn't dare to skip any questions, as again, I wasn't trained. I read all the stuff, but I wasn't confident to be like, okay, I get a sense of where this is going, so I'm going to skip to this section. I just wasn't adept in that way. And yeah, that was a tough one. I had to cry, and I felt quite alone in that one because it was online, remote. I remember getting feedback on something and I just bursted out crying at dinner with family. And then the most fulfilling internship site was with a friend of a friend, and who was starting up a startup, really. And I got to be creative, actually, introduce a program. And actually in having to fulfill my hours in terms of seeing clients as well as running programs, so those are all part of the hours. I got creative, and then I learned about something called Employees Assistance Program that's very prevalent overseas in more developed countries. So essentially, in short, it's called EAP. EAP is where companies outsource their people development stuff and services like counseling and therapy to an actual psychology based company. So I started that program for this startup. Suggested it, and we sold the program to a couple of SMEs, and I got to fulfill my hours because part of the program was, okay, I'll do like sessions, at least 1 session per employee, and because it's an SME, so usually about 20 to 30 people, and so my hours covered. Getting creative with that. It was a lot of hard work, but again, there was something that drew me to this work, that it felt like stress that I was willing to go through, and I felt like I was growing as a person the way I want to. I think I should clarify as well that in transitioning, even as I was going through the program, I was still working, not only as a tax consultant, but I did quit my job and worked as something else in between. So I still wasn't sure if I wanted to go into this proper, especially because that call for doing something more artistic was still quite strong and is still with me today. And I feel like some of the things I've learned along the way in the more recent years is, your career doesn't define your identity or who you are. Who you are is who you are, and that is ever evolving, and it's also multifaceted. So I chose to have my hands in different things. Some are purely just to give me some kind of income, even if it's a little, and I still continue to counsel and give trainings, but I feel I could do better in terms if I gave 100% into this, but I genuinely felt like I'm the type of person who needs flexibility to have time for the artistic stuff. And maybe I'm not 100% involved in artistic as well. But somehow being around the community these days has been helpful, and having some, not turning that into a full-on career also. But maybe this now podcast content creation is part of me trying to work the artistic into the career aspect of things. So anyway, back to my internship and my reflections, my learnings through those days about, how do you navigate the stresses or work-life balance, or taking care of your well-being when work, or not just therapy sessions, but work is stressful. Maybe I start specifically for therapy, something that would directly answer the question that was posted to me. I feel like, yes, while we're in the helping profession, what I came to realize is, because I had the opportunity to go through the shit and struggle, which is why now I have the skill to cope with whatever the stress is, or work with the stress or whatever I'm struggling with. So somehow that's how I take it. And also, if the session was emotionally heavy, that's what your role is. You have already helped in the sense of being there with them and holding space. And the fact that they could cry in front of you means that you've created a safe enough space for them to be vulnerable and cry. Because in most people's lives, they don't have many people that they can be vulnerable with or cry with, or sometimes they have to hold it together because of the role they hold in the family or the household or in the group, in community. And so it's already a big help that they could be emotional with you in the session. And I feel like it's important to see them as human, in the sense that don't feel like helping means you have to solve the problem for them. Again, this is my take, and depends on how you approach things, but my approach is I don't want to take that opportunity or that sense of accomplishment away from them solving it themselves. I'm not saying that don't guide them, don't give them some nuggets of inspiration or knowledge, but just know they also deserve to do it for themselves. And you are there to guide them, hold their hand, yes, and allow them to live their life as well. Something that I thought of, which I don't know if it will be helpful for you, but I felt like it's kind of egoistical of me to think that I'm the only one who can help this person. Because I think I thought that before I quit my last job. I was like, oh, I can quit my job because then who else going to do, who can do the job as well as me? And then I realized I was being so egoistical. Like, of course there will be people who can do the job, maybe not like me, but they will still do the job in their own style, and they probably have their own strengths. And I have my weaknesses also. So that's how I go about thinking about things. I think during my internship as well, because I was trying to hone my skills a lot, so I felt I overdid it. Like sometimes outside sessions when I'm just talking to my friends, I'm also like practicing my skill. In a way, it's good, but it was not so good for my well-being in the sense of because I think in sessions with paying clients, it's giving them a space for their stories, but when you are with your friends, friendship, relationship is of two ways. So I ended up feeling very dissatisfied with my personal relationships, and I felt like no one seemed to be very understanding and considerate of my emotions. So in terms of taking care of your own well-being, I realized that when I'm outside of session, I just need to be Sue-Ann. Like, it's a friendship. Like, while yes, I'm being a good friend by listening to my friend and helping them, but I am a friend to them as well. And if I don't share what's going on with me and my story, then they're not going to know. They're not going to be able to read my mind. They're not being able to contribute being the kind of friend that they want to be if they don't know what's going on. So that's how I think of it as well. Make sure, like, I would say, remember to just be you, and you are more than just the therapist role that you play in session. You have to do it for work, but when you're outside, yes, you can apply it, but apply it as a person living life, not when you have certain stances you have to take when you are actually working, right? Because therapy is actually a working relationship. So that's what I would say for that, and what I have learned through my story. And yeah, I also think another thing about well-being is that whatever happens in the therapy room happens in the therapy room, but life also happens outside of the therapy room. People have a lot of things happening, and they deserve, in a way, to exercise that autonomy and prerogative of how they want to live their lives. Because while you are helping, it's not your life. And yeah, we have certain responsibilities. But I don't know. I again goes back to that egoistic thing. I feel like, and also it's a bit like a control thing, right? I feel like it's disrespectful to want to try and control the other person's life and live it like almost manipulate to live it the way you feel should be right for them. You gotta respect that. And I feel that's been helpful for me to feel like I'm respecting you. Although I'm only here to share and guide you with whatever I have here. But you also deserve to live the life you want in the way you want. And I can prompt maybe if I feel there's something harmful or maybe not working for you. But I want to respect your prerogative to make choices. So that's how I think about it. You take what you feel is helpful for you. And again, like I said, I wouldn't say I'm 100% right. I know there have been people who totally disagree with my approach. That's just how it goes on in my head. And I think during the internship, what also helped to me was like take a break. Take a break in between. Spend time with people where you genuinely feel like you can just be yourself authentically and they accept you for who you are. You don't have to put up a front. Support system. I mean, what we preach to other people is what we need to apply for ourselves as well. And I think I actively sought that out at one point. I did feel certain groups of people were not on the same path. Not say they're bad or anything, or not accepting or toxic in any way. It's just that we were just not on the same path anymore. And I felt like I couldn't get them and they couldn't get me. And so I actively sought out people and go to people and take breaks and purposely plan things that would make me feel at home in my own skin. And part of that was actually taking quite a few breaks to come to Malacca because I felt very welcomed by my husband's relatives here as well and the people in general here. So I felt very at home in my own skin outside of home. And I know like it's a chore for therapists to write their notes. A lot of times like, it's too much, that. Personally, I take it as a brain dump, like after session. So if you want to apply for general navigating stress, maybe journaling, I suppose. But for me, like after every session, some days when I'm really tired, writing those notes, like, okay, my brain can't work anymore. Maybe I need a little break. Or maybe the next day if it's too late in the day to put down my notes, but I have my written notes, right? Which some of you mentioned. But I find it a relief to just like, sometimes I look forward to, I'm just gonna put everything down. Whatever's in my head feels like, okay, I don't like try so hard to carry it here anymore. I'm just gonna put it down somewhere. And I find that really helpful. Sometimes I just like word vomit on, now we type everything out, right? So I just word vomit out and then only go back and edit it. Or sometimes I just set a time limit in my head, like, okay, I only got 10 minutes to write this. What was the most key points I had to put down for that session, and just like put it down really quickly. And that, I don't know, but it somehow helps me release stress. So yeah, those are some things that help me to my internship. And I think working with a startup, realizing that, I think from there you kind of gain your client base, sort of, and you learn how to set up, you learn what is important to do as a counselor. And that's, I used to worry that it's weird to work alone, because in accounting firms you always work as a team. If there's any blame or responsibilities on the whole team, or at least you have the manager who takes most of the blame and they are always the like client facing one, as anxiety inducing as that is. Or you all like brainstorm before you approach the client. There's none of that in counseling. So or therapy or clinical psychology sessions, right? The therapy sessions. So having had like a supervision group, a regular one, or at least a peer group, that was really helpful to have. I wouldn't say I had that during my internship, but after that, when going into the career, that's when I understood that humans are social. We need that social support after all. Yeah, it's helpful to have a mentor and keep on learning. I feel sometimes when I feel like I'm stuck and I don't know where I stand anymore in terms of effectiveness, just joining a workshop, meeting your peers, talking to them, sharing stories, feeling like you belong, a sense of belonging, because they understand the work and the struggles. It's really helpful. So I think even if you are going through your internship right now, that might help you also. Yeah, and I feel like that's all I have to say for this episode in terms of how I transitioned. If there's anything you want to know more about, just contact me once I decided how you can, and see you in the next episode.